Over the last few weeks, even going back to the offseason, one name that has been consistently linked to the New York Knicks has been Minnesota Timberwolves All-Star Karl Anthony-Towns. However, according to one NBA insider, he actually notes that these reports are overblown, at least if you're speaking to the Minnesota Timberwolves. But not only that, folks, this NBA insider actually reveals where these reports are emanating from. We're going to break down all of this and so much more today. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. According to one NBA insider, he notes that the Karl Anthony-Towns trade reports are apparently overblown. If you've been following this Towns report or the entire Towns situation from the summer, then you know that Karl Anthony-Towns has been linked to a number of teams, the New York Knicks being one of the main ones. Not only because he's CAA, but also because Leon Rose, who used to run CAA, is the Knicks team president. And as long as that's the case, these reports about Towns potentially being traded to the Knicks are always going to be there. But according to Matt Moore of Action Network, he actually reports that the Minnesota Timberwolves references and sources that he spoke to stated that these Towns reports about him being traded to another team are absolutely overblown. According to Matt Moore of Action Network, rumors continue to connect Minnesota Timberwolves big man Karl Anthony-Towns to the New York Knicks, but his ability in trade talks is reportedly overblown. According to Moore, there is a widespread belief that Towns is available in trade discussions, a claim that sources close to the Wolves continue to say is overblown, if not outright wrong. However, that hasn't stopped the Knicks from having interest in Towns. Ultimately, it appears that any trade talk on the matter is emanating from New York, not Minnesota. And according to Moore, there is a feeling in league circles that aren't involved with the Timberwolves or the Knicks that this situation is largely being promoted from within New York. This is a massive update here from Matt Moore. We now understand that the New York Knicks and all these reports that we've been hearing about Cat potentially being traded to the Knicks are not only number one overblown, but these reports are emanating. They're coming from New York. And a lot of people are trying to wonder, why is this happening? Well, if you look at the current situation and you look at what the New York Knicks are looking to do, the star they're really looking to trade for, this is not a surprise. The star, the prize for the New York Knicks is Joel Embiid. And if you want to make the 76ers jump at the chance of trading their big man to any team, including the Knicks, then you want to try to force their hand. And what better way to force their hand than say, you know what? We don't have any interest in Embiid anymore. We're all in Karl Anthony-Towns. We want to put our resources there and we want to go after him. If you're the 76ers and you think that New York is your primary trade target, that you can get whatever you want to get from them for Joel Embiid, and now you're hearing reports that maybe that's not the case and they might be more preferred to go after Karl Anthony-Towns, as a 76ers person or anybody in trade negotiations, you're going to want to try to pull that trigger faster so you can get a deal done versus waiting and then having a team that potentially would have given you everything for your MVP not be available anymore because they gave up assets to get another player potentially that they think could help them get over the hump and become a legit threat in the Eastern Conference. And I think that's why reports are emanating out of New York stating that they want to trade for Karl Anthony-Towns when really there is no substance behind these reports. So shout out to Matt Moore for giving us this information because it's clear after hearing these reports, this is exactly what the New York Knicks were looking to do. And I gotta say, it makes me a little bit happy because it looks like the New York Knicks were using Karl Anthony-Towns as leverage to try to get Joel Embiid. But there wasn't really any substance or any real reports behind the fact that the New York Knicks desperately or really absolutely wanted Karl Anthony-Towns. And I love that because Cat does not move the needle for this Knicks team. And I understand why some people want Cat on this team. Cat is the best modern big in terms of three-point shooting. There is no denying that. That is his accolade to own and his to keep. Nobody else's. Shout out to him. But even with that, he does not move the needle enough for this Knicks team. He does not do enough for this Knicks team. And if he came here, the Knicks would still be one piece away from competing for a championship. And right now, if you look at the roster and how it's constructed, a lot of people now would say the Knicks are a star away from becoming a championship contender in the East. So why would the Knicks trade for a star to put them in the same position, arguably, they'd be in right now? It makes no sense, and they would have less assets to go out and get that star if they made the move for Towns. 0 cents. It doesn't make sense. What a great major report here from Matt Moore of Action Network. He gave us all of the inside scoop here and let us know exactly that the Wolves do not want to trade Karl Anthony-Towns to the Knicks. The reports are overblown, and the Knicks, New York, is actually the one reporting on this internally, pushing this out internally, promoting this internally. What a series of reports that we have been looking at over the past few weeks. This report being one of the biggest ones of them all. Moore did note that sources within the Timberwolves organization are open to discussions on improving the team, but are far away from shopping Towns. And even if they did shop Towns, any price for him will be steep, as you would expect for a team with leverage and a star on the market. I want to put that point out again. Leverage and a star on the market. The Timberwolves absolutely have leverage. When you have one of the best big man shooting type of guys on your team in Karl Anthony-Towns, who can shoot the three like nobody's business, you have leverage, number one. Number two, when you have Anthony Edwards, and then you also have Rudy Gobert, you have Jaden McDaniels, you have a young core, you have leverage. You don't need to break them up. But if you did, then no harm to you, because you have a lot of other players that might be able to fill in those roles. And you would get a lot of assets in that type of trade, especially if Towns is on the table. But it's good to note that while the Timberwolves are open to improving their roster, they're not going to go ahead and say, you know what, let's explode the roster, give up my second best player, probably right behind Anthony Edwards, and then see what I can do and what player I can get on the open market. I don't think those are discussions that are happening within the Timberwolves organization right now. They probably are open and definitely want to upgrade their roster, but there's no rush to do so, and definitely not a rush to trade one of their best players in an attempt to do so. And one more thing of importance to note here is that even if the Timberwolves were shopping Towns, the price for him would be steep. And if the price was steep, the Knicks are likely not going to give up their entire war chest of assets to get Karl Anthony-Towns. That's number one. And number two, I don't think Leon Rose sees Karl Anthony-Towns as that type of level of player, a championship bona fide superstar level player that you would clean the cupboards out from, give up all of your assets for in order to get that player. I don't think Leon Rose would do that, because given what he's shown me over the last few years, he's risk averse, and he's not going to give up the farm for any player, regardless of who that player is. He wants to make fair deals. And if that's not on the table, Leon's not doing the deal. Moore also noted that even though the Timberwolves struggled during their first couple of games to start the season, they look fantastic right now, and keeping Towns aboard helps Minnesota maintain the core that delivered these couple of games that they looked phenomenal in. Moore also notes that Towns' contract could hypothetically guide the Timberwolves thinking on a potential deal, given how much they are on the hook for right now. But at this moment, everything appears copacetic in Minnesota, so a Towns deal doesn't seem imminent to New York or anywhere else. A lot of people always bring up the Karl Anthony-Towns contract, the fact that he's going to make a supermax starting next year, and the right time to trade for him would be right now before he starts that supermax. That's a good point if the Timberwolves want to move him. But even as we're talking right now, the Timberwolves have the best defense in the NBA They love their team. They like what they're doing. They like the element that Karl Anthony-Towns add to that team. And I doubt as of right now, they're looking to trade him. I doubt as of right now, they're thinking to themselves, we have a lot of money baked into this roster. Maybe we should trade one of our best players for another player that we don't know what he could bring to this team, and maybe that would work. I doubt that's the conversations that are happening right now at this very moment. Towns is skilled, one of the best three-point shooters at his size in the game. He is making a lot of money now and is set to make supermax money starting next year. So even if he appears on the trading block at some point in the future, teams are definitely going to be wary of him and that contract if they look to trade for him. But right now, there's no point in discussing this because according to the Timberwolves and sources close to them, Towns is not going to be moved right now. The Timberwolves love their team, and there is no Towns trade on the horizon for the Knicks or any NBA team as of right now. But what about you guys? What do you think about these reports about Cat and his trade reports being overblown? And what do you think about the reports emanating from New York? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.